Morning E-Dirt. Fun times again, Monday morning traffic, but it's all good in the hood. So what went down this weekend? What went down was round number 5 of the GXCC series for 2018. Racemere built. It's been a while since we've been back there. We did used to go there quite a lot for the Nationals, for the old GOCs, and I think since we've been running the GXCCs, this is the second visit we've done in the last 3 years. Always going to be a dust bowl at this time of the season. Very, very dry out in the northwest there, just before Ventersdorp. So we know that it hasn't been really good rains out that side this season, but it did really, really dust up this time around. Lawrence used a classic layout of the track, so not too rocky. Where it was rocky, it was rideable, kind of like whoopie rocks, couple of lurkers. But as always, he marked it like a king. Everyone came back and said they couldn't believe how well it was marked. We had a massive turnout, and at this time of year to see just over 350 riders in the lineup queue, that's good numbers across the juniors, the quads, all the senior bike categories. It was the juniors that went out first in the morning, and it was a nice ride from, looks like Demel Duplessis was starting to find some kind of form in GXCCs. Demel's always been a junior racer that's been good at the Enduros. You know, he's a long legger, a little bit too big on an 85 senior bike. But he had some throttle problems that allowed Matty Wilson and Carl Branson to come through, and it was Wilson that walked away with another win. I think that's actually a clean score sheet for Wilson on the tour so far. On the quads, Gideon Jacobs got his big win going once again. So that was no problems for the 421 Racing Man, and he had absolutely no issues on the bike. He was pushed the closest on the day by Hannes Simon, who walked away with the Q2 win. It was also cool in the Q1s to see Russman back at full fitness and back on his Honda. He didn't have mechanical problems, but what he did have was a physical problem on the bike. The nerve bar on the left hand side actually coming off, I think it was lap number 2, he said, meaning that he essentially basically didn't have like foot pegs or anything to ride with, just a gear shifter, so he had to hang his leg the whole time. So anyone who's had to ride without a foot peg will know exactly how that feels. On the quad ladies, very good ride coming out of Gnarly Carly Butter. She got a nice ride going there, and it is a bit of a 2-horse race out front. There's always around about 6 or 7 quad ladies making the lineup queue, but it's always going to be a flip of the coin to see if it's Marty or Carly. The technical nature of this track, it looked like it was going to be a 450 track, so Carly walked away with that one and stays on point for her championship points lead ahead of Marty. In the Masters category, it was a back-to-back win for Brian Herbst, so Gideon's partner in crime there at 421 Racing walked away with another whole shot, another win. He beat out Steph Bester, so he's on a bit of a flyer at the moment. He's coming off his first ever GXCC win just a month ago, and he's just backed that up as well. So now he becomes a championship threat. The rest of the guys are really going to have to watch their backs because we've still got 2 rounds of GXCCs to go, and if he keeps winning, yeah, you know the story. So potentially 4 wins on the trot coming up for Brian Herbst and the 421 Racing squad. On the senior bikes, great gate. Quite a few stories, and I'll pick up on the stories as we go through the categories. Let's climb the ladder. So as we went out of the gate, it was the OR1s, the big bangers. Story of this season has been JC Nienaber controlling a lot of the championship. He had a problem and he had to take a retirement at the previous round, but he's still championship points leader based on his consistency and his form so far this season. So he took gate pick number 1, gate pick number 2 goes to Kenny, and those are the 2 big threats in the open category championship. It was JC that managed to just get away with a whole shot, and it's so important in the GXCC racing. You know, the hare scramble cross-country format of the startup queue means if you're not clear air straight away, you're in someone's dust. That means you're riding someone else's pace. So very important, and JC has really got his game down as far as that goes. He's on his new 2019 bike, so no issues with machinery anymore. For King Kenny Gilbert, the story of the race was not a great start, in fact a horrendous start. He got really stuck in the dust, had to make a lot of big passes to get himself up to challenge with JC Nienaber. He did that all on lap number 1. He closed him down to within around about 30 seconds, and that's how it just stayed like that the whole way through. Then on the last lap, looked like JC just not necessarily faded, but could not fight against the thunder that was King Kenny, who came on strong. And after running second place the whole way through the race, within the last 10 kilometers, the pass was made. JC didn't have an answer, and it was Kenny that walked away with the win at round number 5 to close things up in the championship. The deficit 10 seconds. Kenny with the win. JC2 spot, 10 seconds. That was the difference. Big surprise in the chase group though. Normally it's going to be, Lowe Schmidt. Lowe was a no-show this time around. He's keeping himself fresh to try and stay strong for the last round of the Nationals, which of course is mixed up with the GXCC. So Lowe was a no-show. The other guy that was a no-show, unfortunately, was Charon Moore. So Charon very much focused on, well, not focused. He's doing a lot of stuff this year. He's doing motocross, he's doing enduro. It's just a busy lad, So unfortunately, he couldn't make it this time around. It's always this part of the season where you see a lot of calendar conflicts, I like to call them. Challenges, we call them, working in Joburg. It is tricky. It is tricky to fit everything else in. So unfortunately, we lost two big hitters there. D'Artagnan Lobjoy is always running 3-spot this year at the moment. He can run the big numbers, but he has fueling issues. The fueling issues that he has is not a big enough tank, essentially. So he's had a lot of problems with getting his strategy right on the Yamaha, and he says that's really why he's getting beaten by the Huskies. The fact that those guys are pinned wide open as well is a difficult thing, but Dart, we know he's a former champion. He comes off being GXCC Open category champion from last year, so we know how fast he can go. Anyway, he was stuck in a third place battle the whole way through the day with Altus de Vet. That's right, Altus de Vet. So Altus has obviously been doing his homework. He wasn't able to hang on to a third place. It looked like he might be able to, but D'Artagnan came good, got over his fueling issues about halfway through the race, and then he was charging, was able to pull a bit of a gap on Altus. In the OR2 category, it was a whole shot for Taki. He needed that as well. JJ Daisel has got a real stranglehold on the championship points at the moment. He came tearing out of the gate, and those two were the runners at the front. They were banging elbows in the early part of the race, and eventually Taki got his nose out front. JJ was able to run him close in second place. The whole way through the day, he was within 30 to 40 seconds of Taki. And then the dice behind was very much a dice. In the early part, Jason Fenter was running good. And then the consistency and form of Vanno Delport came good. So the track's KTM man walked away with another third place. And he is also looking very strong in the championship. Ian Rawle, who was the big surprise from the last round, who jumped onto a 350 and smoked everyone, in fact walked away with a top 3 fastest overall and a category win. He lined up, and he was a fair bet, to be honest, to do it again. And he had issues with his radiator, and before the bike fully let go, he had to retire the thing. So commiserations for Rawle. He has stepped out of the GXCC Championship by way of moving across categories mid-season. So for the Nationals, he'll focus on the 250 to round out his season. But commiserations, because obviously we wanted to see a standout ride from him once again, and I think we were a little bit robbed. A lot of guys having issues. Gielik just couldn't find the form or rhythm, kept crashing early on, and bowed out of the race, just wasn't feeling it. Sometimes you're just not. I totally understand. In the OR3s, that's the 200cc category, the Mac Attack, Darren McLeod has been controlling the cheese the whole way through the season. Most consistent rider. Everyone else having issues. He's had no problems on the D&H Engineering Yamaha, and he's really having the season of his life. He didn't really have to win, and he doesn't have to win for the rest of the season. It's a good thing as well, because he didn't, unfortunately. This time around, getting himself ready for his first attack of a GXCC next month, combined with the National Championship, is Bradley Cox. So Bradley is trying to get himself in a position to try and maintain a top 3 placing in the National Championship. At the moment, he's had a bit of an up and down season. Anyway, he lined up hands on heads for the very first time. Motocross kid, we always expect to have a good start, but if he was going to get the start right, this was the time to do it. He did, banged out the gate, smashed the gearbox, and just went for it. Runaway lead. He had actually broke himself, I think, inside of a top 5 overall, and a clear winner in the OR3 category. Second place went to McLeod, so he's still in great form. And another third place for the mad kid, Martin van Jaarsveld. So kind of the usual hitters, and just throwing a little bit of sprinkling of rock and roll with Bradley Cox coming in. By the way, he didn't stay for prize giving, literally loaded straight up after the finish line and went straight down to the coast, because I think he had a round of the KZN Hare Scramble Championship to race in. So doubling up, these kids are pretty damn fit. Commiserations for Jared Coetzee. In the OR3 class, he came out of the gate in second place, really challenged Bradley Cox hard for the whole shot, and went running with him in the early stages. Unfortunately, went down early on in the early rocks and has busted his collarbone. This is just terrible news as far as the championship in racing goes. Jared's coming back from 2 seasons of blown out knees. He just managed to hang on to his factory KTM deal by the skin of his teeth, and he is leading the national championship in category as well, looking for his first ever national championship in the off-road for the OR3s. They're going to smash a plate in there. He should be able to get riding in the next 2 weeks, and hopefully be able to hang on to that lead in his championship when he goes out to defend at the final round at Carltonville. So from us here at Hollywood, and for GXCC, speedy recovery, Jazz. Don't want to see you lose another championship, buddy. In the high school 125s, the story of the season so far is up until this round, we had 4 rounds of the championship, and we'd only had 3 different winners. Low Pretorius is the only double winner of the season. Stormy's got 1, and I think in the early part of the season, it was Robbie that had 1 as well. The one that was missing, the man that had been missing a win so far this season, is reigning 125 champion and Mr. 125, Ryan Peltzer. Just had a nightmare of a season. Lots of mechanicals, lots of bad luck, issues. This time around, got it done. Whole shot, pinned it, bike held together. I know Kevin, his dad, must have been biting his fingernails the whole way through, waiting for the penny to drop, waiting for something to go wrong. It didn't. He got it. So 5 rounds of the high school 125 championship, 4 different winners. Gotta love it. As far as the championship goes, Low Pretorius was in 2nd place this weekend, so he continues to stay out front in the championship. Storm Phil Yun dropped down outside of the top 3, I think, for the first time this season, and that will really cause some waves in the championship. I think it should still see Storm Phil Yun in number 2 spot for the championship, but it's going to be a really tough ask to try and come back with the kind of form that he's in. For the ladies' motorcycles, the 2018 season and the season before that has been controlled by Janke Pieterse and her sister Annika. This time around, we were pleased at round number 5 to announce a new winner. Elise Olivier takes her maiden win at the GXCC series at round number 5, and may we see this happen again. I really hope so. Great to see some new names and new blood coming in. Elise, normally a rock hopper, she's walked away with championships in Enduro, and she may be now heading into becoming a threat in GXCC racing. Well done, Elise. For the age group categories, Bruce Viljoen took number 1 gate pick. He's got a good thing going at the moment for the championship for the seniors, but the man that's been pushing him the hardest the whole way through this year has been Wade Blau on his comeback season, riding on the 300 2-stroke. Bruce, of course, on the 450 4-stroke Husqvarna and the Roos KTM 2-stroke 300 of Blau. Again, those guys went at it. It looked like Bruce was about to get a nose out front in the whole shot. Blau swept around the outside and managed to control the inside in turn number 2. That meant that was the rest of the day, the story for the rest of the day. They were just all over each other. Bruce ran him probably between 15 and 20 seconds on some laps, dropped back to 30 seconds on some laps because of the dust, but that's how they finished. How they started and how they finished. Blau, Bruce. So Bruce at the moment still maintaining a championship points lead, but as we've talked about with other categories, if Blau keeps banging the wins, Big Bruce is going to be in trouble. 2nd places should keep him safe, but if he has one bad race and drops out of the top 3, it's danger zone. It was Lloydie that got a number 3 spot. Lloydie is starting to become extremely consistent. Old Motard buddy of mine, motocross crossover. He's got the skills and he's certainly got the fitness and experience to run with those lads. This track just didn't suit his style, and he was a distant 3rd, but a 3rd nonetheless. In the Masters category, Wayne Farmer out, and unfortunately he looks like he's probably out of the championship now. There's no way to fight back after 2 bad rounds or 2 losses. The early part of the season, Farmer was running second behind Peter Hall, and Peter Hall has just had a faultless season. At this round, Peter Hall turned up, but he didn't take the win. It looked like he was half rolled the whole way through, and it was almost a Bert Smith Racing lockout on the podium. But this time around, Leon Gerber actually took the win, another rider coming out of Bert Smith Racing, and Peter Hall had to take the number 2 spot this time. I think with Peter, he's controlling the championship at the moment. It's not that he let Gerber win at all. Peter wants to win every single time, but on a track that was slightly more technical, and we know that Hall is a bit of a high-speed superhero. Maybe he just wanted to control the championship and not make any mistakes, so second place keeps him in the lead, so that's all good as far as that goes. There was quite a bit of other stuff going on this weekend as well, obviously up across the borders. Motocross of African Nations, MXONA, as your acronym goes. Hey, I worked on the event last year. That was up in Botswana. Great event. It's going to be very busy for the rest of the year for the motocross kids, because obviously you're doing a little bit of passport stretching and then heading out to the national championships as well. Remember, motocross just finished at Zone 7 as part of their national championship, and now they had to pretty much go straight up across the border and do a big road trip. So very, very testing for the wallets and the form of the riders to try and just keep going. There's a lot of other stuff coming around the bend. There's talk of Night-X coming back. That's coming up at the end of the month. I'll be speaking to Mike about that. Then the Lowveld Enduro Club, they push their calendar out now. Big gap. It's only like November that they're rolling out their final event. And then as far as our GXCC, the family that are closest to my heart, we've got 2 rounds of the championship remaining. It's only a couple of weeks to go until we do what hasn't happened in the history of GXCC so far, since Lawrence and Marilyn have been running it, and that's combining a GXCC and a national. So that's going to be out at Carltonville. We have yet to understand how it's going to work. There is talk of 2 50-kilometer loops running separately. Excuse me. So just listen out for that. As soon as I have information, as soon as they feed me information, I'll be able to tell you exactly what's going down with that. But it is going to be a fun one. And that is going to mark the penultimate round of the GXCC series and the final round of the national championship for the off-road bikes. The quads will be racing not as part of the national championship, as they're not running national championship status this year. Too low on numbers for the national entries, but they are still in strong form for the GXCC series. For now, I'm going to sign off with this one. There's not a hell of a lot else going on for the rest of August or the beginning of the rest of the months. So it gives me a little bit of a chance to catch up my breath, catch up with a few studio bookings and voiceover appointments. But it's nice and busy from now on. It's spread out though. It's not double ups and triple up weekends. From now on, it gets to be spaced out, and we're closing in on the end of all the championships. So for me, it's a very strange part of the year where the throttle gets rolled back almost a little bit too early, in my opinion. A lot of the national enduros, motocross and off-roads are finished way before Roof, almost like a month and a half to 2 months before the Roof of Africa. The thinking, the old school thinking used to be give the guys enough time to prep their bikes and repair their bodies in time for Roof. But the new school thinking, which I'm really in for, is keep the season going, keep the energy high, keep the revs up. A big roll-off before the season finale, I don't think it's the right call. But anyway, the Roof has gone back into December, which pushes the season out late. But remember, everything else pretty much wraps up a month or a month and a half before that. So anyway, that's what's coming down the pipe in the future. Once again, guys, a plea. We are running on fumes here at Hollywood Hills. Still big thanks to Gareth at Whole Shot. We couldn't do it without you, and I literally do mean those words. We need 1 or 2 other sponsors to come on board and help chip in to help us run Hollywood Hills, to improve the quality of the information we're bringing and how we are bringing it to you. So if you guys can chip in, just get hold of me on the tagline as always. Otherwise, we'll sign off with quite a big Hollywood Hills here. It's always a big one coming out of the GXCCs. So GXCCs, 2 more rounds to go, baby. It's getting close. We'll see you guys later. Cheers.